At least that's what I feel, and the presenter as well. So with that, I'd like to introduce the presenter. Dr. Aisha Mia is a graduate of AQ from the class of 1998. She trained in psychiatry and child psychiatry from the University of Texas, Houston. She was faculty at Baylor College of Medicine till 2013 before she came here at AKU. And she joined AKU as chair of psychiatry and has recently become the interim dean for students. I also happen to know that she is very keen in medical education and is currently pursuing her FAMER fellowship from the United States. And with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Aisha Mia.
Thank you, Azam. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, we'll be talking about student wellness today. I just wanted to give a little bit of a brief introduction on how I entered this field and why am I talking about student wellness. So while I was training at University of Texas, Houston, one of the things that I felt was that the students were not interested. So it all started from psychiatry. I'm a psychiatrist, child psychiatrist. I felt that the students were not interested in psychiatry. So I thought, why don't we get a group of students together to develop a psychiatry interest group? And once I did that, that group got started, I slowly became very interested in some of the student issues and student concerns that were going up. So these students were not necessarily interested in mental health, but they were very interested in some of the concerns that the other students were happening around them. And a lot of what they brought into our group meetings was issues of some of the student experience related issues. So that's where it started. And then once I became faculty at Baylor, again, I became one of their mentors at the medical school. And I think it was around 2010 or 11 that somebody reached out from AKU. I was still in the US at that time, when folks here, a group of faculty over here, were hoping to put together a student mentorship program. And at that time, I worked closely with that group to develop a student mentorship program that is now up and functioning here at AKU. And when I came back in 2013, I joined, which I'll very briefly tell you about, the student support group, of which the student mentorship program is a part and parcel. So over the span of the past 15 years, even though I have trained and developed my career in psychiatry, I've continuously been very, very connected with students, student education, student experience, and how is it that we can make that better. So I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes or so just giving a brief talk. I'll keep it simple, and then we have a panel of people that some of them are here already, and then some will join us very in a little bit of time, and then we'll just open it up for questions so that people can ask about things that they're really interested in. Okay, so student wellness. This has recently become a very what should I say? I mean, it's a very cool topic to talk about these days, to talk about student wellness. It's something that all universities are talking about. It was not necessarily an in thing to talk about student wellness about 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but over the past few years, more and more universities have found that the student experience is actually a very integral part of how well they will do academically as well. And more the establishments, the university establishments, are looking into student wellness as a very integral part of their program. So what was considered as extracurricular activities for students are now considered as co-curricular activities because they tend to be integral to their whole experience. And we'll talk a little bit about what has changed. So disclosures, I have no disclosures. And my objectives for today's talk, so at the end of the talk, I'm hoping that all of you would be able to discuss the different needs of the students today. How have students changed? Have they changed? Are we just imagining that they have changed? And if they have, then do we need to do anything different about it? Also, we can describe the concept of student wellness, and then appreciate the various facets of student wellness in a college setting or a medical college setting or whatever the setting. I also want to, I think, lay out there that when we think of students, we're thinking about nursing students, medical students, college students, but that's not necessarily true. We're all students in some way or another. I think when we signed up to be healthcare workers, to be doctors, nurses, physicians, or people working in academic settings, we signed on for being a perpetual student. So I think it's important to think about, we all run a lot of master's programs here as well. We run PhD programs that, when we think about student wellness, we're not just talking about the undergrad students, but overall, whenever somebody goes through an academic program, then that person is a student, and how does their experience become important? So what is all this rush about? Why is everybody talking about student wellness? What's the big deal? Why are sort of more and more universities investing in developing more robust student experience programs, student experience departments, student affairs departments? More and more of the departments of student affairs are now reporting directly to the presidents of the universities and stuff. So it has certainly taken a lot more import than it was before. So higher education is under intense pressure to meet the personal needs, demands, and expectations of an increasingly diverse and complex student population. So, travel has become easier. A lot of students are now going to different places and not just staying in their own little localities to seek further education. Also, there are lots and lots of online programs. So you see a lot more students that would travel to another country just for, let's say, 3 months, 6 months, and then pursue the rest of the program online. So there, the student body has become a lot more diverse. And because of that, their needs have also become a lot more complex. We do know, and there's lots of evidence, I'm not going to go into studies, there's been lots of studies around this, but more students than ever are struggling with mental health issues. They're less resilient, and students get very upset when I say things like that, what's the difference between us and the others? And I'll just give you a little bit of a theory. We really don't know why. We really don't have a pulse on this, that why is it that they are struggling with mental health issues, but there are some theories that they're less resilient and more overwhelmed by the demands of college and life. One thought is that because of very good mental health care available and early care available, a lot of students that would otherwise before 10 years ago, 20 years ago, not made it to college are now making it to college because they have reached out and sought mental health care earlier. So these might be students who have baseline anxiety disorders or mood disorders or other sort of mental health issues that do well, but then they come to a very stressful sort of academic environment and they have relapses or the mental health issues come to light. So that might be one of the reasons why we are seeing more and more health issues or mental health issues in students. And a lot of universities, I will tell you that a lot of us get very concerned about AKU. I have, with the very little prevalence studies that we have, we really don't have numbers, but, some of the objective numbers that we have from our work that we've done with students over here, we're actually in a good place. So compared to other international universities, we are not doing bad. So I do want to put it out there that it seems like we have a big problem at hand, but, we are in a good place. The students also have an increased passion for social activism. We'll talk about the millennials in a little bit. They exhibit diversity in every sense of the word, and they want to be accepted and validated for who they are. So if we don't do that, if we do not say that, oh, you do great at this, and this was wonderful work, kudos, keep it up. If you don't say things like that, they're not happy. Okay, and they get very upset by it. We have Hamza sitting right here. He's going to challenge me in a little bit, but generally, they want to be validated for the work that they've done. So it's very, very important that colleges address these outside the classroom issues. So the idea before was that if we have a good curriculum, we have a good assessment work and plan, everything is going fine for the students, that they'll be okay. They'll be happy. They'll be satisfied with their experience, but not so much, because what is happening outside the classroom affects what is happening inside the classroom. And ultimately, it impacts an institution's effectiveness, its retention rates, and its marketability. So let's talk of the millennials. Does everybody know what the millennials, who the millennials are? Yes, are you a millennial? Yes, okay. So we just checked it up with the help of some friends of who the millennials are. So anybody who's born after the year 1982 to 2004 are what's called millennials. So our students right now are millennials, okay? It's a generation, that's the generation that we are talking about, the millennials. So anybody who was born between 1980 to 2004 are millennials. And what's so special about them? Are they special? Yeah, okay. So whatever they do, I think it's important for them that other people get to know about it, and not in a bad way. I mean, this is a joke here. This is a cartoon here where he's talking about at my work, working, the grind, work square, forever young, lots and lots of hashtags that they use all the time. Facebook's full of them. I stopped at Facebook. They're doing Instagramming and Snapchatting and a lot more exciting things that I don't even know about. But it's important for them that other people get to know what they're doing, that they share it with other people. It's not enough that they do it and leave it at that. It's important that other people know about it. Their communication style is very, very different from, let's say, the older generation, where the boomers may say that I scheduled a bi-weekly meeting so we can stay on top of this, and a millennial will say, well, I set up a group chat so we can talk 24/7. Why just a bi-weekly meeting? Plus, my animated GIFs weren't working on email, so that is why I set up this chat. Okay? So they want to be connected, and they want to be connected all the time. Okay? And it's very, very important for us, for example, to disconnect. Right? That bas kaam ho gaya, now we're home, we want some time on our own. They don't want that. They don't want to be disconnected. Also, is this clear? I'm sorry, the cartoon stock logo was coming on top, but pretty much they've added this little picture on the wall saying hugs and encouragement, that we added this just for the millennials. So they want to be constantly encouraged. They want to be hugged. They want to know that they're being taken care of. And they want to know that somebody will listen to them and appreciating what they're doing. Okay. I put this out there because I think it's very, very important when we think about student wellness, when we think about student experience, to understand that we're working with a different group of people. We're working with a generation that thinks very differently. Okay. So what may not make sense to us and the way we work doesn't make sense to them. So it's this communication across generations that becomes very, very important. A survey that was done by the Chronicles of Higher Education in about 20 universities in the US found that student affairs has become a much bigger priority on campuses than it was before. An overwhelming majority, about 95% of student affairs departments reported being represented in strategic planning initiatives at their institutions, which was not the case earlier. Okay. So student experience was never, the institution was thinking about their 5-year plan. Student experience outside of the curriculum and academics was not necessarily a part of it, but now increasingly, and we see 95%, they're being asked to become part of the strategic plan. The efforts are not tucked away inside the student affairs division. We are working as a university in very intentional ways. This is from Vice President of Student Affairs at Indiana University. So again, what happens with the student experience and student wellness becomes a very big part of what, an institution, the kind of face that the institution wants to have. When the student affairs departments and the presidents were asked about the pressing concerns, the student mental health and diversity issues were the top concerns. Third was campus safety. Okay. So these were some of the things that they said. About 73% of the respondents said that in the past 5 years, they've been paying greater attention to mental health. 71% said diversity, and 70% said campus safety. Okay. So again, if you think about it, it's not necessarily, they're not thinking about academics, they're not thinking of assessments, the presidents are not thinking of those, they're thinking of these things. So what is student wellness and what are the dimensions of wellness? I really like this diagram because it really sort of encompasses things that we worry about or we think about when we think of student wellness. So we think about the spiritual wellness, that they've been a good place, physical wellness, and I'll talk very briefly of some of the programs that we have at AKU where we're trying to make sure that they physically keep well. Leila sitting right here, Leila had started the Swimming Saves Lives program over here. The sports center was set up, and we really encourage students to go there and use that space as much as possible. Emotional wellness, and again, I'll talk a little bit about the kind of programs that we have around emotional wellness. Social wellness, so they're doing things together, they're meeting together in places. We have spaces for them where they can meet and spend time with each other and have good, robust interactions amongst them outside of the classroom. Environmental wellness, so what kind of environment are they living in? What kind of environment are they studying in? So it's great to study in this lecture hall. Do we have other spaces for them like that? Creative wellness, so we're giving them enough space for them to be creative in other ways than just their academic stuff. And our students, again, do a lot of theater, art, they go to debating competitions, so they do take class. And I also want us to think about, in terms of other programs that we set up, conferences that we have, that are we plugging in our students and using their creativity to see that what else can we do when we are putting together programs that are not just focused on academic and classroom teaching. Then career guidance becomes a huge part of their wellness. Are we providing them? Do we have a good program to provide them with career guidance? Financial guidance. So again, the registrar's office does a great job of helping students so that they're not struggling with financial concerns. And then intellectual wellness, that we provide them with enough. We get very, very smart students, the smartest of the country. So then are we giving them enough space to make sure that intellectually they're getting to use their smarts? And this again, I know the colors weren't very good, but I just wanted to put this out there, because it really encompasses a lot of the things that need to be looked at. So when wellness happens, we are thinking about wellness of the mind, the intellectual, emotional, financial, spiritual. They need to keep well in this arena. Physical, sleep, nutrition, physical fitness. And then also sort of the community that we're providing for them, the context, the cultural context that they're existing in also becomes very, very important. So the environment that they're in, the cultural aspects of, who are they associating with, interpersonal, and then what kind of services are we making available for them? I think everything can't be perfect, but are we continuously thinking about them? And again, just another way of thinking of this, that we are making sure, and if we start from up there, that we're making sure that we recognize their abilities. We're promoting independence. I think that's extremely important, because that's not something we do well with. Culturally, we don't do well with that, right? We say that these are students, we are faculty, we know better, we tell you what to do, you didn't do this right, this is, the punishment or consequence that you get out of this. So we want to make sure that they are empowered enough that they can work independently. So we guide them, but then give them the space to work independently as well. We support their current skills. So we don't squash them. We don't say this is not needed right now. 5 saal ke liye isko bhul jao. Whatever you did, you wrote poetry, you did art, you did theater, you did debating, you did swimming. Forget about it for 5 years. Focus on your academics, and you can come back to it once you're done with that. You don't want to do that. Regain skills that they may not have used. Are we picking those up and then giving them an environment where they can bring those up again? Okay. Again, maintaining autonomy. So we're giving them some space to be able to do things on their own. and supporting community connections. I don't think we do that well enough, but again, I think that it's important that what are their connections to the community? Where else are they coming from? Do they have siblings that are working in some other institutions? Are they coming from other cities? What are available in other cities? And are we using their community connections to help build our programs better, and then help help them grow in a lot of the ways that I've talked about. So I want to briefly talk about what we have at AKU. So I just wanted to, because I think Azam brought up that, I've taken over this position as an interim Dean of Students. I just wanted to put this out there to kind of help people understand where this stands. So there are 3 offices right now: the Registrar's Office, the Office of the Dean of Students, which we don't have yet, but we will hopefully in the next few years. And then the Dean of the Medical College, the Dean of the Nursing School, the Dean of the Director of IED. So these are the 3 offices that work under the University Provost. And all of these, and I specifically mentioned these offices because they deal directly with students and everything related to do with student experience. Okay? And what is going to happen with the Office of the Dean of Students is that they will take care of some of the needs, and these are the needs that I've put in there, of the students from the 3 different schools. So the nursing school, the medical schools, and the IED based in Pakistan. The students that are based outside of Pakistan, and some of these things that I've mentioned are still being taken care of by the Registrar's Office and the Student Experience Office under Leila and Lou. So within this office, the hope is to have, and we already do, we have a psychological and counseling center, student experience, student mentorship, student advocacy, student leadership programs. Can we develop some student leadership programs? We already have some, but is there space to develop more of those? Liaisoning with parents around issues for some of these things that I've mentioned. Then student code of conduct and discipline, and then student wellness. And these are just some of the things that I've listed out. So what already exists, and again, the current Registrar's Office had a big part to play in it, is to develop the psychological and the counseling services, so more organized services. What was happening before that was that the students were reaching out to whoever they could reach out to. So they would reach out to the psychologist, they would reach out to us in the psychiatry department, but now we have an organized service under Hadia Pasha, who's the lead counselor, Dr. Aisha Sanobar is the student psychiatrist, and we have other 2 part-time counselors. We also have the student experience, very robust student experience office. Amin Lakhani takes care of it. And we have things like, cricket, volleyball, basketball, debating events, swimming saves lives, work and study program. So some of these things that have been established in the past few years for the students and are working very well under this office. I just wanted to briefly, for those who are not familiar with this, we also have a student support group, and a number of services that are sort of enveloped inside the student support group. So we have the academic counseling committee, and this is mainly happening right now at the medical student level, medical school level, not so much at the nursing level, but I do know that there are plans of putting these in place over there as well. Student health exists everywhere. We have student counselors. I just talked to you about that. We have the student mentorship program. So every student, medical student, has a faculty mentor that they can reach out to whenever they need to. We have Synergy, which is a fantastic, very robust program that is a peer mentoring program. And Hamza sitting right here, we'll have a chance to talk to him or ask him questions about it. It's actually quite a unique program that doesn't really exist in other schools in Pakistan. So I was just telling somebody that when we had the auditors who'd come to look at our programs, they actually really liked this program and took the sort of the blueprints of this program. How does this work? They wanted to know more about it because they wanted to take it back to the program. So it's a peer-run mentoring program where the students pair each other, a senior student with a junior student, and they actually do a lot of activities during the year as well around the Synergy program. It's been a great program because it has picked up students that actually needed help, emotional help, other kinds of help, and have taken them to the right people in the university. We also have the student emotional well-being group, the career counseling committee. We do not yet have a student helpline. We kind of felt that we already have a number of things in place and this might not be needed so much. Okay, so I've already talked about student mentorship and synergy. I always put this quote in all of my presentations because I love it, and I want to sort of talk about this again, that if you treat an individual as he is, he will remain how he is. But if you treat him as if he were what he ought to be and could be, he will become what he ought to be and could be. So I really think when we look at student wellness, look at student mentorship, look at students, we really need to look at students in terms of what they can become, not what they are right there and then, because they will answer to that. I'm going to end my presentation here. I do want to just end with this, that teachers do to change lives because of who we are as human beings, how well we listen, how well we encourage and help students believe in themselves. So I think when we did sign up to be teachers of students, and all of us teach in different ways, we're all role models, whether we are teaching formally or informally, that we did take up responsibility. And it's important to think beyond the classroom and look at the student as a whole. So thank you very much. And are we opening it to the panel now? How are we doing this, or taking questions?
For our next part of this session, we have a panel discussion. For the panel discussion, I'd like to invite Dr. Aisha Smith. Dr. Aisha is involved with student counseling. We have Hamza Suhail, who is leading the Synergy group as a student member. And we have Ms. Khairun Nasa Ajani from nursing, from Sona. So are there any questions for our panelists?
So it would be great if you could share with us the challenges which you are feeling being a counselor, being a student synergy advisor, or other mentorship, so that we could learn that how these are the challenges and what strategies could have been placed to cope it up at our levels too.
Would you want to introduce yourself?
Sorry, I'm Dr. Hassan Mahmood. I'm assistant professor in Department of BBS, Biological and Biomedical Sciences.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. So I believe the biggest challenge that I have faced, it's been over a year now that I've started working as student psychiatrist. And the biggest challenge is to actually help them know that it's a problem. Help them actually realize this, that yes, this is a problem and you need to seek help. So this was one of the biggest challenges. And even if they had known that this is the problem, what to do next, who to reach out, how to seek help. So I thought this was the biggest challenge that was seen.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Hamza. I'm a final year medical student. I'm also serving as a convener for Synergy. So before I go on and answer your question, I'll just have to give you a brief explanation of what Synergy actually is. So this was something that a few medical students started around 5 or 6 years ago. And this is a student-led organization that works with the aim of helping out juniors who come into AQ because they're coming into a new environment and they're facing a lot of issues. So what we primarily do is that we make separate groups and then we pair up juniors with their seniors and we pair up all the batches in one group. So right now we have 20 groups and all those groups have different students from all the years. 1 to 5. And what actually happens is that we encourage those the mentors, the seniors, to take their juniors out, to talk to them, to give them advice, to give them academic advice, give them help them with their social lives, whatever issues they're facing. So the need for this came about with the issues stemming from the fact that people coming to AQ, we're all 17, 18-year-old, and then we come here, it's a new environment, we're living alone in the hostels, most of us, and people have issues, and a lot of people had issues making friends. So a major part of having synergy or making synergy was trying to help people make friends and connect. So, it's hard to define what exactly synergy does, but I think it will be easier if I go through what we have been doing. So what we do every year is that we have an ice-breaking event in the beginning of the year, which is funded by the university, and they're really helpful in arranging this. So we have the groups, we make up those groups. We have an event in the SRC, and they all meet up, and they have different activities for around 3 to 4 hours. This is one of the most successful events that we have and this is from the feedback we get from the juniors. What else we're doing? We have established a few things over the years from different ideas from different students. We have a book bank where the seniors donate our old books for juniors who can't afford them. So if any junior comes in and they feel that they can't afford a book, they can just approach us and they can get those books from us. We have a game night, we have karaoke nights, we have book clubs. We have recently started another thing which is called the Synergy Tutorship Program, where we encourage students who are having issues with their rotations to approach us, and then we link them to students who can help them academically. So these are small things and small ideas that we're working on, and it's completely student run. We have the support of the administration, the SSG, and the registrar office, and we go to them whenever we need money for our events. It's something that I'm very proud of because it's completely student run. All the ideas are coming from the students, and most of these activities are completely arranged by the students. So I think that is really important, and Dr. Asha spoke at length about this, independence and autonomy for students. I think that's something which when I came to AQ that strikes you a lot, because in AQ you see a lot of autonomy which you generally don't see in a lot of other colleges and universities. So that was one of the major things that we tried to inculcate and work with in Synergy. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
If I could add my comment on the last point that was made, the biggest challenge that I feel, including what everybody else has said, I currently chairing the progression committee at the School of Nursing, and I've been a student here and I've been teaching for so many years, is the gap that he just highlighted, that the system that most of our students come in from, or the background that they come in from, it is still a traditional school education system that they come in from. They are used to the classroom sittings, the prepared notes taking, they are used to structured exam, and once they come into the university, we suddenly expect them to grow up as adults, do their pre-readings, their post-readings. Attendance may or may not matter in a few things. We expect them to become adult learners, take responsibility of their own learning outcomes, which all of them may or may not be prepared for. So the gap that I feel is that hand holding that may come from a program like Synergy, or the realization at the teacher level that they've just come out of a school system or a college system, and they will need a lot of guidance and facilitation in terms of how to search for an article, how to effectively use a library, and how to become an adult learner is what is missing. By the time they get used to it, probably they have their assessments lined up, they have their GPA announced, and they are all lost in stress as to where do we go. So under the umbrella of a university, so many policies, so many expectations, and then we tell them, no, you must go to the sports center and you must attend this and you must participate here. It's like, how many pieces are they going to cut themselves up into? And have we really given them the space and the orientation to adapt to this university mode is the challenge that I feel is quite large.
So thank you. I think this is very important comment from from Karanisa. So the question comes to Dr. Aisha now. In such scenario, when the system is more demanding from the students, then how can we, provide enabling environment that they could grow naturally?
So studying is hard everywhere. I think that Karanisa talked about, and they all talked about the undergrad students. I just had an assembly with the IED students and the master's students. And they are also students, and their challenges were completely different. They are struggling how to balance work and life. They all have families, and now suddenly we're saying, okay, you're going to do a PhD or you're going to do a master's program, and you have to read 4 papers tonight because there's class tomorrow, and their children may be having their exam, and their husbands might be out, and life is happening around them. There might be a shadi at the house and stuff. So they have a lot of very different needs, but the struggle is still the same. I think that it's very, very important for us to understand the context of our student. So providing the enabling environment is a second step. Understanding that we need to provide an enabling environment, understanding that this is hard for students, it's not easy, is the first step. I will tell you that, for the past 3 years, I've had students coming to me left, right, center, कि ये problem हो गया, ये हो गया, वो मेरे साथ ये कर रहे हैं, वहाँ पे ये हो गया, all sorts of different things. And I have not been able to do anything. I've just been asked to take up this responsibility of telling, students. इससे पहले I had nothing to do with students at all. But all I did was just listen, just sit there and say that, yes, this is hard. I understand that this is hard. We can't do anything about this. We can try to do something about this. Do you have a solution around this? What I've also found out is that if you let the student come up with a solution, and they'll tell you that I'm very famous for saying that don't come to me if you're bringing me a problem. Come to me if you're bringing both a problem and a solution. That might be that may not be the right solution, but at least you've thought about it. Okay, and you've taken, you've been empowered enough to say that this is my problem, so I'm going to think of a solution. So I think a lot of times the solutions comes from them. So if they are saying that, okay, I don't want to be cut up in like 100 pieces because we are saying ye bhi karo, ye bhi karo, ye bhi karo, the idea is for us to provide them that there are all these opportunities. Now you figure out what works best in your situation. I think that's very important. कि ये जो सारी चीजें हमने दी हैं, पूरा student support group है, a million things that we've given for them, or have, if they're in place for them to use whatever they need. There were people who were saying कि जब faculty mentorship program है तो आप synergy क्यों start कर रहे हैं? Well, because sometimes they may not want to come to us. Sometimes some students don't want to come to them. They want to come to us. Sometimes they want to go to Hadia. Sometimes they want to go to, Aisha. Sometimes they just want to go to Samar, who's their student health, general physician. But as long as we have lots of places for them to, get help from or do whatever they want to. Some wants to swim, some want to do debate and stuff. I think they'll be better off. And again, I keep saying this again and again, student engagement and everything that we do, one of the things that they do not like at all, they get very upset with, is कि हम rules बनाते हैं उनके लिए and then the last people to know about them. Okay, so as long as they are involved with what we've put in place for them, and again, I'm not just talking about undergrad students, all students, ask them कि क्या कर सकते हैं आप लोगों के लिए, what do you think would be best? These are our constraints. Within these, what creative solutions can you come up with? I think we are in a better place, or we are in a good place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
So, Dr. Aisha, I have a question with you. So have you ever come across with a student complaining to you that he or she is unable to meet the expectation just because he or she is unable to meet the competitive environment in his or her own academic class? And if so, what kind of policy is being followed by the university in order to induct these students, because to the best of my knowledge, they all belong to a very good and robust academic background. So sustaining that competitive environment, how much does that influence the personality?
So I'm not so sure what you're asking. So you're asking that there is a student who's having a hard time
In maintaining the grades,
maintaining the
despite of the
grades?
fact that he or she being very good as
Oh,
far as the
okay.
academic background is concerned.
So we have the academic counseling committee that Dr. Kulsum Riaz leads. So I think it's just important to understand कि क्यों problem आ रहा है. So we've chosen students, and whether it's in nursing, whether it's in IED, whether it's in our program, whether it's in our MHP programs or our other master's programs, I think we have a good system where we've chosen students that we think will manage it. Okay, so if it's not happening, it's not happening for some reasons. So whether they were the kind of learners that were, kind of learning styles are different as well. So do we need to teach them differently? Okay. These students do come up, studying has been very, very easy for them up till now, for most of them, and then suddenly now they find that they have to work hard, so they don't like that. Or they have to work, or they actually have to open the book and study and stuff. They don't like that sometimes, or it comes as like, मैंने तो इतना पढ़ के मैं manage कर लेता था, मेरे 8 A's आ गए, मेरे 4 A's आ गए, A levels में, what's happening now? So is it that we need to teach them to learn differently, to study differently now? And otherwise there might be other things that are happening. Are they stressed out for other reasons? As I said before, that a lot of them may have problems related to their home environment, problems related to other things that are now just spilling over because they're overall so stressed out and they're not able to concentrate. And there might be a number of reasons that this might be happening. And what we do is, again, we start with the academic counseling. We start to figure out who we have the DET program as well. Within that, we have, different ways of teaching, learning. क्या कर सकते हैं? So I will tell you that from the curriculum perspective and the assessment perspective and all, we try our very, very best to make sure that a student does okay. It's very hard for a student to fail at AQU. They don't believe that, but it is very hard for a student to fail at AQU. If we do fail them, it's usually for more professionalism issues than academic issues. So yeah, unless you guys have anything to add here.
I'd like to add something.
Yeah.
One of the first things that is seen, and is especially in our system of education here in Pakistan, is that there's a lot of what students lack in their study skills. Okay. Before coming to a professional higher education college, they're used to, when there's a test going to come, when there is an exam, we're going to study for that. Okay, so it's based on a need to study because of an exam pressure and exam deadline. But the difference is when you come into higher education, that needs to change. And when students understand that and they make the transition, it becomes easier. But those who don't make the transition, can't make that link or that jump and change and adapt their study skills, then they will face problems because they're only used to doing it when there's a test come.
So it's hardly ever a problem of intellect. Hardly ever. It's a lot of other things that we could help them with the context.
And also to encourage them, if to add that it's okay to talk, and they should learn to speak what they feel, what the stress is all about. Find the right person, be it your peer, be it your faculty, be it your advisor, and because they come in from a system like we are highlighting, it's about the study skills, about the social skills as well, that it is okay to feel a little different. It is okay not to have an A all the time, and if there is something bothering, this is the time to speak up. Get it out of your system so you'll be able to think clear and think better. That encouragement also is very essential in helping them move forward in a positive way.
May I add something?
Yeah.
Okay. So recently I've been working with students who are in first year and who are actually finding a hard time managing their studies. Some of them were at borderline, some of them were really getting low marks.
Hadi, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, I am Dr. Hadia Pasha. I'm manager of student development and counseling here. And Another thing that we do is have these skill building workshops. And the question that what do you do to help them adjust is one of these is that we conduct workshops related to their time management, related to their stress management, motivation, self-esteem, stuff which is all relevant to performing. You know, if you have all the baseline, you have all the academics with you, but still you are not performing, obviously there is something else that's working. And this is what we try to work on during the skill building workshops. In these students who were struggling, some of them were very well intentioned, and the problem that they were having was that they were studying too much. Rather than prioritizing what needs to be studied, they would try to learn everything that is available anywhere on the net, on the books, all types of books. So obviously they could not focus on their exams and they could not perform well. For some others, when they came here and they thought that maybe we should develop more as a person, their priorities changed from academics to making more friends and being cool and being in cool groups and stuff like this. And then when they go out a lot and they do not prioritize again their time well, then they start struggling. For some others, it would be like they had this pattern of feeling anxious. And when they came here and they saw 100 students with the same capacity that they had, it made them anxious actually. And their anxiety got the better of them. And then they had to work on their emotional stability, and then they performed really well. So with different students, there are different things that work.
And just one thing which I think is important for me personally, I had a better experience of this because I already had an elder sister studying in AQ. But one thing that I think new students coming into AQ need to be told is that not getting a 90 is sometimes okay, because you know we come from because we come from most of the students come from a background where they're topping their classes, they're topping their schools, and anything below a 95 is unacceptable. And there are two factors here: one, the student himself or herself, and secondly, the parents, because a lot of students get a lot of negative feedback from their parents who think that you just out partying, kyun bahar jate ho, number 68 kyun aa gaye hain, all of this stuff. So I mean, the advice I got from my sister was that, you know, don't be shocked if you come down to a 70 or a 60, because that happens in medical college. And that is the advice I think a lot of us, the senior students, give to juniors, that other than your percentage, even topping class isn't always possible, because I mean, obviously you have a lot of other gifted students here, and all of them are toppers themselves. So that is one thing that needs to be very well, driven into the student's mind, that you know, topping or being overly competitive is not the way to go about in a medical college, especially in a competitive medical college like ACU.
I think it's important to tell them that it's not a sprint. This is a marathon. So you really have to pace yourself, because you'll be doing this for the rest of your life. Also, I think that we do tell them. We tell them when they come, but all of them are thinking, yeah, mere liye nahi keh rahe, unke liye keh rahe, unke liye keh rahe. So nobody thinks that I'm going to be the one jiske 70 aayenge, 60 aayenge. Jab aate hain, to phir then it's suddenly still a shock, because it's not something they're expecting. But anyways, I think we need to continuously work with these students. There's a question? Ji. Sure.
Baby boomers, the millennials, millennials one, and for the baby boomers, this thing that I'm facing in my school, that I always had a clash with my ideas with the baby boomers and myself as a millennial, because I think one of the reasons is they don't accept our new ideas and innovations, and they don't let us grow in a way that we wanted to grow, that we wanted to bring something out of the culture that is going on. Like if I have an assignment and I want to do it other way with some new innovation, it always hindered out, or it always cut off, because no, you are expected to go from these guidelines. So you have to follow these guidelines, abide the guidelines. So it's like, it always hinder my energies, my vibes, and I cannot make that good. So in my last semester, I felt the same, and I got my ranking from 70s, 80s to 60s just because of this, because you are expected to do something which is coming in the trend. Secondly, this was the clash that I wanted to acknowledge it. And secondly, I wanted to ask about the career guidance and mentorship. Obviously, as I am a nursing student, so career guidance and mentorship, I believe, or I don't know what I have been looking for, actually it's been portrayed that nurses are supposed to serve in every areas of the specialization, either if you're going for surgery, medicine, whatever it comes in your manager gives you. So I believe there is no career guidance for myself. I believe like if I have to ask right this stage, if I'm doing my final years, that where I wanted to go or where I want to go, so I need to ask myself. We don't have any mentors as well, and I believe that if for the faculty advisories, they don't help that at level of that we are asking for. And third thing, yeah, I guess this is it.
Okay. And you're at the nursing school here?
I am post-student student, final year.
Okay. All right. And your name?
Ishma Iqbal.
Okay, Krishna. So, I'll just make a quick comment about the baby boomers or the Gen X and the millennials. I mean, this is a reality. We've all gone through it. When I was a student, I was working with a different, and we've all said this. Our parents have all said कि हमारे वक्त में ऐसा नहीं होता था, तुम लोग सब बदतमीज हो गए हो, पहले हम लोग इतने respectful होते थे और सब. So I think that, and then we are saying this to our students now. I've had a number of faculty, so since coming back, I've had a number of older faculty members say कि तुम लोग ऐसे students नहीं थे, जैसे अब ये सारे students हो गए, तुम लोग हमारी बात सुनते थे, तुम लोग. I don't know how much of that is true. Maybe it is true. Maybe, when some time has gone by, तो वो हमेशा अच्छा लगता है पहले वाला वक्त. I want to say this though, that when I talk to the Gen X and the baby boomers, and I say that we need to understand what the millennials are thinking and how they're thinking, I also think that the millennials should be also thinking about that. How is it that we can talk to these baby boomers, right? So as much as I send us and my colleagues articles on millennials, perhaps, you all can also read about, what it meant to be this person in that era, in that decade. What kind of issues did they go through, and why did they become what they became? Why did they put in these guidelines? Why did they? Because once you do that, I think it'll be easier for you to have that conversation with them. So then you meet each other halfway. You say, I understand this. Within this guideline, is it possible for me to do this? So you guys are very creative, very innovative. I'm sure you can figure out a way out of those guidelines as well, right? Some innovative way कि कहाँ से कोई loophole निकाल सकते हैं और इसको, what I want to do फिर भी कर सकते हैं. So think about that, that what is it that you can do to present it in a way that within your rules, within these things, because institution ने किसी वजह से डाले होंगे, can I do this? So I think this is just good for your future planning and future life as well, in terms of negotiating what you want to do. So I think that's important. Your other question was
career guidance and
career
mentorship.
guidance. Carissa, do we have plans for the nursing school you might want?
If it helps, we completely realize what we've just verbalized, that these are the issues we need to work on with increasing diverse population that we have at School of Nursing, and it is in our plan, and hopefully very soon we will be working with Dr. Aisha as well, the other teams. We will take examples from what has worked with the medical school and definitely implement things like that at our entity as well.
Yeah. Last question. The thing that I was mentioning about these baby boomers, and the thing that recently we have got the faculty which is just of our age or a little bit older. And in the morning, she was giving me an evaluation, and she was saying that, can you please tell me some of my areas of improvement that I can do? Then I said, okay, you are the faculty and you're asking me that I tell you that. I mean, it was an amazing thing. And like, it was two interaction, just kind of synergy thing that you interact with both of us and we can...
So peer mentoring works really well. And I think that also from the faculty's perspective, I think again, I think it's a newer thing where some of us younger faculty have been trained in asking for feedback from our students, because we also want to improve. So a lot of times what will happen is that once I've given this talk, I'll go to a lot of my peers who were sitting here and say that could I have done something differently in this talk. Okay, so that's just, and I know that it helps learning a lot, both ways.
In ideas as well, in thoughts as well, in growing as well, everything. It helps a lot.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I agree. Any other questions?
We also have an audience member connected with us online. We have Dr. Kabir from ISRA University. Dr. Kabir, can you hear us?
Yes.
Do you have any question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Asha, for this wonderful presentation on student wellness. My name is Dr. Kabir Devani. I work as an assistant professor in medical education department at Istra University. My only question is, at what time these study school workshops are offered to students? I mean, is it offered very early before they actually join the curriculum, like in the refresher classes, or is it offered mainly during the mid of the curriculum during the early years? And their impact on their academic performance as well.
So, Dr. Kabir, a number of these workshops some of them are offered when they first come in, maybe just a few of them, but at this point we don't have a very systematic way of doing this, and a number of these workshops are really offered when a need arises. So if you feel that there's a particular cohort of student that's feeling particular stress around something, then we may offer these workshops for them, or specifically for the first years, if you feel that time management is being a little bit of an issue, then there are some that are built into our first couple of weeks of when they first join, but this is again at the medical school level. I'm not so sure if you do? Okay, so we have them both at the medical school and the nursing school level. So there's some of them that are sort of given to them at the orientation, couple of weeks of orientation, and then the others are really on an as-needed basis.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we have time for one last question.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Vijay. I'm an instructor at CHS. We are facing a lot of unhealthy academic competition among students. Can you suggest ways of encouraging teamwork?
So, I don't think that academic competition is unhealthy. Okay, I think it becomes unhealthy when we as teachers and facilitators and stuff are not able to manage that competition well. So I will tell you that the competition comes because our assessment methods are built in a way that force that competition. So teamwork, I think team-based learning, a lot of the learning has changed into team-based learning. A lot of what we've tried to do in our service line, nothing to do with academics, is that we do not award individuals, we award teams that do well. So perhaps if there is a way that you build that into your assessment, that the teams will get a grade. What team did well, then you might be able to take care of that. But if you are teaching team-based, but your assessment is still individual-based, there will still be competition. So it's what you inspect, the students will respect. I always say that. So think about what you're inspecting, and then change that so that unhealthy competition can go away. And then competition is part of who hum jo students lete hain, they're super competitive. We can't take that away from them. But how is it that we can channel it into more positive ways? And I keep talking about how we can really keep them busy, build a lot of good leadership programs, other things that we can do so that that competition can again get channelized into other ways and other things. Right?
Okay, with that, I'd like to draw this session to a close. I'd like to thank our panelists, Nisa, Hamza, and of course Dr. Aisha, and of course our presenter Dr. Aisha Mia. And of course I'd like to thank you all for being here, and hopefully after Ramzan we'll have our next education grand round, and keep a lookout for that. Thank you.